quarterbacks, I'll just have you bring us in, and then I'll kind of give you my 5 after you're done. All right?
Okay. I got Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, and Hurts. And there were probably three other guys. So I was like, ooh, I kind of, because this is looking to this year, right? Who are not like past performance. This is for 2023, not for the next 10 years. At least that's how I did it. Those were my 5 guys.
Yeah, I've got the same 5.
Really?
Mahomes is the no-brainer. Yeah, the only difference is I have Allen over Burrow. If you want to tell me arm in the running attack that Allen provides you that Burrow doesn't, not that Burrow can't run the football, but just Allen one-on-one to the pylon against a defensive player, like Allen's going to win that more often than maybe almost any quarterback other than Lamar, who would win in a different way. I went with that, even though I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't sit here and say that's insane to have Burrow ahead of Allen. I think Herbert's the one where he's kind of like an NBA player who's been an all-star for 7 straight years, and he's got his max, and he's lost in the second round of the playoffs, and that would be a lot for Herbert. But the tide really felt like it was turning on him publicly, where it's like, oh, if this guy's so good. But then it's like, that's really more of a social media commentary with him, where all of a sudden, like, because he hasn't won in the playoffs, despite every single person that works in this league that seems to think he's terrific, or for whatever fan base that maybe thinks their guy's ahead of him, I'd always ask, so if you traded for him and he was your starter week 1, you'd be bummed out? And the answer we know is no. You could get into it a little deeper where his yards per attempt were the 3rd lowest in the NFL. And the names, that he's down there with are pretty like uninspiring quarterbacks, but he faced 258 pressures last season, which is the second most since ESPN started tracking it, so 2009. So it could be even worse if we track that number. So I'm with you on that. And it's funny because I went into it, Sheil, thinking like with Hurts, I go, am I going to put him top 5 after just one special year? And I still think it's the right answer, which, I was surprised. I went into it going, I know I'm going to catch shit because I don't think I'm going to put him top 5. But I think he's there, even though my rule would be to be that guy, you kind of have to have done it for a couple seasons. But I think it's the right answer, despite going into it thinking that I wasn't going to come up with him.
Yeah, I think you're, first of all, right about the Herbert fatigue. And I don't think it is just social media. Like, I have friends who I know will crush me that I have Herbert over Hurts in this exercise. I'm with you, though. Like, you watch him and you're just like, it's going to happen eventually. He's still young enough. Everything is there. The arm, he doesn't turn the ball over. He's athletic enough. He's smart. He's accurate. His OC got killed last year, Joe Lombardi, with the Chargers, because that yards per attempt number you quoted, he had the 3rd shortest just average distance on his throws. And you watch him, and when he unleashes one 40 yards downfield, you're watching and you're going, why do they not do this more? And it's so frustrating. And part of that was like you mentioned, they had O-line injuries last year. I think this is sort of a no excuses year for Herbert. I mean, that offensive line is really good this year. That's a top 10 offensive line. They draft Quentin Johnson. They've still got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. They've got the new OC in Kellen Moore, who, if you look at Kellen Moore with the Cowboys, they produced top 5 offenses basically whenever Dak Prescott was healthy. So I think it's all there for Herbert. It hasn't happened yet. I understand the Herbert fatigue. You want him to be better than 25 and 24 as a starter. You want him to do something in the playoffs, but I still have him there. And then Hurts, I'm with you. I kind of had the same thing. I was actually debating him and Trevor Lawrence, honestly. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a monster season this year. And that's another guy who you're going off really half a season of work last year and the playoffs. But Hurts, the small body of work is also a reason to kind of put him up there because he's improved. He improved so much year to year. I mean, I think people would be surprised. He completed 67% of his passes last year. He had the lowest interception rate in the NFL, and he's already one of the best rushing quarterbacks we've ever seen. And he's 24 years old, has all the pieces around him. So I think we made the right call getting him in there at number 5.
Okay, so that means, and by the way, on that Herbert stat, you're right. That's air yards per attempt. That was the 3rd lowest in the NFL. So it's not just yards per attempt, if I misspoke when I said that the first time, because that actually could be more concerning because that's a number that usually tells you some truths with quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, both not in our top 5. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just like I think the Jets. I'm sort of getting to a point where I'm a little bullish on the Jets, where I think they can make the playoffs, and I think he's going to be fine. I think he was playing injured last year. I don't think he's top 5. I think the Jets kind of need him to be like top 12, top 15 with the defense they have and some of the talent they have at wide receiver. I mean, I'm just not going to bet on a quarterback who's in his age 40 season to be a top 5 quarterback, even if he is kind of an all-timer. So that was the only reason I left him out. But I think he can be pretty good this year, actually.
Yeah, I think the Trevor Lawrence call for you, like, I didn't think I'd have him in my top 5 either. I don't. I'm fine with it. And it's like, wait, if we're going to give Lawrence all of this credit for his season, then Hurts wins that tiebreaker, if it were even a tie. But it wasn't really even a tie for me. The only other name, there's 2 things that I want to bring up on this, is that I still hold out hope that Deshaun Watson, as a football player, like, there's no way that's who he was in 2022. There's no possible way for a guy that I thought was easily top 5 when you considered how bad that team was in Houston towards the end and what he still did. Like, he really was carrying a football team where you'd be like, wait, they're still in this? And so I still think he has a chance to get back to that. I won't let myself believe that he's as bad as the guy that we saw last year.
Yeah, it was a 6-game sample. Now, he was legitimately statistically like one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the league, but it's a 6-game sample last year. I left him out just because, like, I kind of want to see it at this point. I mean, it's been, it's been 3 years since he's been on the field as a very good quarterback. And so I'm with you. He's still young enough. He still has the tools. I just wasn't willing to go there. And then the other guy was, Lamar Jackson. We haven't brought up yet. To me, just kind of the durability of having missed 10 games over the last 2 seasons, combined with the inconsistencies there in the passing game that they've had. Now, they're hopeful that the new coordinator will help that too. He was the other guy I thought about. And then the last one was just Dak. I still think Dak Prescott is a really, really good quarterback, even without the playoff success. But I wasn't willing to have him above any of those guys in the top 5.
Yeah, Lamar, I was never thinking I would have him 5th. But if somebody goes, hey, he's 7th, I'm not going to say that he's wrong. So when we wait on Sando's quarterback tier column that comes out, it'll be an outrage once again when he's like 6th or 7th. And it's like, I don't really think it's that outrageous. It's actually a huge compliment. But when you put together some of the MVP stuff that he's done, you're like, well, wait a minute, how many guys? And I think everybody's kind of settled on this, and it just turns into a bit of an outrage. Final thought on the quarterback stuff. When I was looking at the PFF rankings, we are in a weird spot with the bottom third. Like, when you start to look at the depth at the position, and part of this is inflated just because of the way the game is played now, the way the game is officiated, where middle of the pack statistical quarterbacks are putting up absurd numbers. But if you look at the bottom third of this league going into this season with the quarterbacks, it feels like it got really bad really quickly. Or I guess the way you could explain it is that the guys that we didn't know about, we know about now. The unknown lets you think there's a chance this person could be really good. So you could look at like 5 totally unproven quarterbacks and still have hope for them. When you look at the way some of these rankings break down from like 20 on down, you're like, man, it feels like it's going into the season as a really bad bottom third. They had Fields ranked 18th, which, obviously is a huge bump because of how amazing he is running the football. But, that does not last. That doesn't turn you into a franchise quarterback. I know he has lofty goals for himself here, but just looking at the position, I was like, man, it feels like it got really bad in the bottom third here, which could mean we could have a lot of new starters going into 2024.